Survivor 46 is here, and so is On Fire, the only official Survivor podcast, and we have a twist this season. The winner of Survivor 45, Dee Valladares, will be joining us every week.
We're going behind the scenes of the biggest moments, the how and the why things happen, and the strategy and analysis you can only get from someone like me, a Survivor winner.
Listen to On Fire, the official Survivor podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. Get in, loser! Mean Girls is now streaming on Paramount Plus. Join Katie Heron as she meets the plastics in Tina Fey's new twist on the modern classic. Get ready for more of the rumors, backstabbing, and jokes you loved from the original movie with some fetch surprises. Rated PG-13. Wear pink and head to ParamountPlus.com to try it free.
Welcome to the After Party, a TSF Network podcast. It's a mixtape of purposeful, encouraging, and fun content from across all the shows who are part of our podcast network. I'm Fallon Klug, the Director of Operations here at the network.
And I'm Heather Cook, Head of Advertising and Partnerships.
All right, guys, happy Monday. We are glad you're here. You know, Mondays can be hard sometimes, so we hope that we are bringing you some light in your day with today's episode. So thanks for tuning in. Okay, so today's episode is from the Paula Faris Show, and her guest today is Whoopi Goldberg. Come on, y'all. Amazing. It's called Why We Got Along and How We Worked Through Our Differences.
Can I just say how much I love Whoopi? I mean, Sister Act, come on. One of the best movies in all time.
It's true.
Okay, back to it. Today's show, Paula and Whoopi unravel their shared history at The View and shed light on how their contrasting viewpoints nurtured an unexpected yet profound friendship. So let's listen in.
Whoopi Goldberg on the show. I don't know how I got so lucky.
Well, because you wear shirts that say, "Can I get a side of ranch?" This makes me happy.
Does it? This is my Midwestern kid coming out. I put ranch on everything. Especially pizza.
Yeah. I don't know about the pizza. I was with you.
Until the
but
pizza?
I like dipping it. I like dipping my fingers in ranch.
Have you ever tried pizza with ranch?
You know, there's the New York Italian in me that won't allow that. It just won't allow it. But, you know, I can draw the line, you know, at pineapple and things, but I don't think I could do ranch dressing. But I know lots of people who do.
Yeah, I can't do the pineapple, like the Hawaiian pizza. I can't do the chicken pizza.
Yeah. Look,
it's like
cheese and sauce and cheese. Okay?
And meat.
Some meat. You know, a little bit of meat goes a long way.
Well, it's so good to see you. And I have to say, so we had the opportunity to work alongside one another at The View for 3 years. I think it was like 2014 to 2017. I don't know. It's a blur. And I have to say, a lot was written about us. We had to really navigate some choppy waters because the tabloids love The View for whatever reason. They're always writing salacious headlines. We had to work through a lot of it. Most of that was unfounded. Yeah. And on the other side of it, I found a very loyal and generous friend, which you have become to me. So I just want to say thank you. And I want people to see that side in you today.
Well, listen, I think you're a wonderful woman. And I told you that from the beginning. And I like wonderful people. And, you know, we don't always agree on everything. You know, we don't always see eye to eye. But it doesn't preclude the friendship. Nothing precludes the friendship.
Right.
You know, because at the end of the day, that's what we have. We have the family we create. And you're part of that for me.
Thank you. I mean, you're so generous. You've thought of me on my birthdays and you don't have to. So I appreciate that about you. And you mentioned something really important. We don't always have to agree. And I think you and I, our ideology probably do not line up, but we can still love and respect one another. And I think we've kind of lost that art in our society. Like, my friends have to believe exactly what I believe. And I think having people with different ideologies challenges me to, and really, it doesn't threaten the confidence that I have in my own beliefs. If anything, I think it deepens them. Right. So I just think it's a lost art.
Well, it's sort of gone the way of so many other things in our world. Like, I loved radio. You could go to AM or you could go to FM. you know, and you got a smattering of everything on AM radio when I was a kid. You know, the soul channels, the soul singers, the rock and rollers, they were all mixed in. Glenn Campbell, everybody was mixed in, and you got to hear what was out there, and you got to make decisions about, oh, I like that song. I don't love this album, but I like this song. I like that this person sang this song. That now we have niche markets. So you just have to hear what you want to hear. You don't get to hear anything else. You don't hear anything that challenges your musical affinities. And for me, it's a lost art, because it required you to think for yourself and make your own decisions.
That's right.
And now, you know, when, you know, I always say that the fall of modern civilization began with American Idol, because we did a thing which I think we should never have done, which is to tell other people that their opinion over me mattered. And I think really that has brought, wrought a lot of things that are not good for us, because you know, there are things, you know, it's one thing if somebody says, oh, I heard, or it's like going to school. You know what you're looking at when you go to school. When you're facing a school that encompasses the computer and everything that goes into that, it's daunting, you know. So I liked when I could listen to what you were talking about and think to myself, oh, I kind of like that.
And I appreciated that you challenged me. I really did. I think you made me to, like, I think in some ways I was listening to an echo chamber. I was in a bit of a bubble. And so it forced me to think outside of myself, which I thank you for. I think it's made me a better, more empathetic person, which is the kind of person I want to be. So thank you. And now let's talk about you. Enough about me. I want to talk about you, Whoopi. So we're dedicating this entire season to my big break. I want to talk about your big break. So you were raised by a single mother in public housing in New York City. And then you go on to become one of 17 EGOTs, which means you've won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony, and I think the first Black woman to do so. So pretty incredible to see like where you've come. How did everything start? What was your big break? Because I know your first move was out of New York City to San Diego, where you were kind of working some odd jobs, pursuing acting, I would assume. So what would you say is your big break, Whoop?
I think my big break was probably a really wonderful thing that was written about me. I had come to New York at the invitation of Dance Theater Workshop to come and do my monologues, which is what we used to call the stories that I tell. They're my monology. And a man named Mel Gussow, who wrote for the New York Times, if I had been married to him, I could not have gotten a better review. It was, and he understood. I mean, he understood everything I was doing. Yeah. And when you read it, you go, oh, I want to see. I wanted to see my own show when I read the review of it. So
and what was the show?
The Spook Show. And then they said, you can't call it that. And I was like, but why not? And they were like, no. So it then
I love how you push the envelope, Whoopi.
Well, you know, because there are so many things tied to that word that at the time you could play with it. You can't play with things very much now. They don't, they are very rough with people. But for me, it was talking about the spirits that live in my head, and those were the spooks. It was also talking about the spirits that we try to walk past because we don't want to see them, because they scare us. They're the people that we want to be empathetic to, want to help, and don't know how. So we keep our heads down and we just walk. It encompassed all of that. And he wrote this extraordinary review that literally changed the trajectory of my life. Because when I first started doing the shows in New York, because I'd gotten this invitation to come do a week worth of monologues. And I said, oh, great. And I got to come home, see my mom. And they were like 4 people the first night. And I kind of said to my mom, I'm pretty sure it's going to get better. I'm just going to put leaflets out.
And your mom was one of the 4, right? Your mom was one of the 4?
She
okay,
was.
so
yes, she was. And I just was, and the people who were there, came, I'm sure, because they were looking for something else. But they came and had a good time. And then there were 8 people in the audience. And then Mel Gusso came and wrote this review, and then I was sold out.
That's
and
incredible.
I got to meet the fabulous Bette Midler came to my show. A wonderful actress who just passed away recently. Her name was Barbara Barry. And she had made a film that I'd seen when I was a kid called One Potato, Two Potato, about an interracial couple. And it was an amazing film. And so she was there. And when I was doing my thing and I look over and I think, oh my God, this is Barbara Barry. And I realized I have to keep it together to try to do everything. And then, of course, came Mike Nichols,
right?
Who then said, do you want to do this on Broadway? And I said, sure. Of course I do.
Yeah.
I thought he was kidding. I didn't think he was serious. That encompassed that ball of Mel Gusso and all the people that came. And then Mike Nichols is the big break. The big break. And then, I got to do my show on Broadway for a while, almost a year. And then I got an invitation from Steven Spielberg.
Who was that again?
Steven Spielberg.
Oh, yes, I know who he is.
He's
crazy.
He's a cute little director.
Yeah, I love
and
him.
he said, I can't get to New York. Are you when you travel back to San Francisco, which is where I lived, would you mind stopping? Would you do the show for me? And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I went to his office at Amblin Studios. First time I'd ever been to a studio. And there he was. And he said, I don't know if you are aware of this, but, I'm going to be doing The Color Purple and all kinds of stuff. And I just listened. I was like, oh, cool. And he said, so, I'd love you to do your show here. And he said, I've invited, because this is the first time we're doing an audience in this little tiny space. But, I've invited some people so you'll have an audience. And I was like, oh, cool, And then I go that evening and I'm backstage and I'm looking out of the curtain, between the curtain. It's like, is that Michael Jackson? Oh my goodness, it's Michael Jackson. Oh my God, is that Ashford and Simpson? Oh man, I think that's Quincy Jones. So I'm looking at there, Steven Spielberg. Oh my God, because I'm thinking I want to be an Indiana Jones too. So I am happy to do the show for him. Because I used to write a lot. Yeah. They said, don't do all of the show. Just do some of the show, because I'd written a piece called BLEET, and it was about what would happen if E.T. came into Oakland during the early 70s, and so it's called Bleety. So they said, don't do that. Don't do that. I said, okay, I won't do it. And
does Monday at the office feel like a storm? Not with Microsoft Copilot. That feeling when Copilot gets everyone up to speed instantly? It's sunny again. When Copilot simplifies complex data so your teams can act, that sun's shining on a beach. And when Copilot uncovers hidden insights, you're on that beach with your people, and you find buried treasure. That's Microsoft Copilot. Learn more at Microsoft.com/AI for all.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
And then I did my show, and everybody was really appreciative. They was yelling more and more and more. And I thought, I'm not supposed to do anymore.
I was told I can't. Yeah.
And that's what I said to them. And Steven said, I said, well, I created this thing called Bleed Tea. He said, well, you have to do it. I want to see it. I said, okay. I thought, well, there goes Indiana Jones. You know? And it's about what happens if E.T. lands in Oakland, in a neighborhood that had the projects, you know, where they don't take as much care with neighborhoods as they do in the suburbs.
Sure.
And so, you know, he comes down. In those days, we had jerry curls. And so he gets a jerry curl. He starts running women. He becomes a pimp. He starts doing all kinds of stuff. And he has on a suit. And when his people come from the other planet to get him, he mows them down because he doesn't recognize them.
Okay.
And it's really about assimilation.
Sure.
You know, we can ask people to become part of our tribe, but we can't take their tribe away from them. It's not good and it's dangerous. And he was like, okay, you got all that from the movie? You got all that from E.T.? I said, yeah.
He directed it too. And he directed E.T., right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, so that's like I would have been so concerned that I was going to offend him or say something wrong.
He said, you know, go ahead. And I was like, okay.
Okay, you sure?
I was saying, because I'm telling you.
Because so E.T.'s going to be phoning a lot more than home in my version.
Well, he couldn't phone home because none of the phones worked. Phones on the street never worked. So it was, but it was really about what happens, because if you don't recognize your people when they come to say, hey, we're so glad, and you knock them off, you've become something totally different.
Yeah.
So that's what it was about. And so those two things, coupled with the Broadway show, HBO show that came out, and my show for Steven that led to my audition for Color Purple. That's all my big break.
Yeah, and it involved, yes, a lot of hard work and putting yourself out there and the grind and the hustle, but also somebody writes this raving review and kind of changes the trajectory, and it goes to show the power of words. Well, okay, so then you do the Color Purple, play Celia, you're nominated for an Academy Award for that. Then you do, I don't know the exact chronology, but Sister Act 1 and 2, which
Ghost, Sister Act, you know.
Yes.
There's like 40 movies, but all of those led to everything I've done.
Yeah.
The Grammy came from my recorded show, my Broadway show. So that's where the Grammy came from. Yeah. The Tony came from being the producer of Thoroughly Modern Millie. The first Emmy came because I was the producer and voice of the story Hattie McDaniel.
Okay.
And and the Golden Globe came from Color Purple.
I don't know how you keep track of all this. I mean, it's a good problem to have. Whoopi, so I want to go back. Well, first of all, my mom has a question.
Okay.
Because we're watching Sister Act 1 and 2, and we want to know. I mean, Sister Act 3 was announced almost 4 years ago. When's it coming out?
Well, you know, we just had a writer's strike, so that hasn't been fun. And then we had 2 years of COVID. And so it's coming. You know, I'm just waiting to see what else is coming down the pike for us.
Sure.
But it's happening, and we'll all be together.
I love it.
Soon. Yeah, me too.
How did this all happen for you? So again, growing up in Manhattan, you moved to San Diego. Did you always know that you wanted to go into acting, and then you moved to San Diego, and I was reading, and Wikipedia is not right about everything, but you worked some pretty odd jobs. You were a bank teller, a bricklayer, a mortuary cosmetologist.
Yeah.
You had some, that's all true?
Yeah.
Okay, Wiki was right. So you worked these odd jobs. Are you trying to break into acting at the time?
Well, yeah, but you got to feed your kid, because also I had a child. So you have to feed your child, and you have to do it at hours that works with what you're doing, you know, so your hours are a little bit different than normally, because you're still trying to act and still be on stage and still go to auditions. So you try to get those hours that you can work. And I was lucky enough to be able to get onto welfare, which I needed at the time because I didn't have, any help. So thank God for welfare. And all I ever wanted to do was get off of it. Because, when you're a welfare recipient, you lose a lot of your God-given rights to privacy. In the old days, they used to give you, $50 a month to feed your kid and do everything. And for that, they kept the right to come investigate you at any point in the day, any day of the week, any hour. And if you got a job that paid you, $25, they deducted it, which I always thought was really a terrible thing to do. Because if you want people to get off the dole, then when they start working, you can't take money away. You got to let them get on their feet and then let them walk away. But
and
that's not how
them.
it ran. Yes,
but
that's not how it. That's not how it was run for a long time. But I was lucky. I got help. I got help through them, and I thought for in the early part of it, I thought, "What? This is terrible. Why am I asking for help?" And it's like, well, are you going to starve? What are you going to do? If you need help, ask for help and go and get it.
Yeah.
Ego has to be left. Check your ego. When you have kids, you know this, Paula. When you have kids, you have to check your ego. Because it doesn't matter what you really want. What matters is taking care of your kids.
That's right, first and foremost. And I never put two and two together. I mean, I've met Alexandra, your daughter, and she's a lovely human being. And I know you're a grandma, too. You dote over that grandbaby, by the way.
Great-grandma.
And a great-grandmother now. My gosh, you just spoil those kids, I'm sure. But you were doing this as a mom. I don't know if you were a single mom at the time, but you're doing this as a mom. Yeah. That has to be pretty motivating, too. Like, I gotta feed my kid, but I gotta make this work.
Yeah. Listen, I bought a car for $17 that had no brakes.
Oh, my God.
Okay. So it was a Volkswagen. I used to stop it with the emergency brake.
Stop it.
Yeah.
So was it a stick shift or was it?
Yeah, it was a stick. It was a stick.
Oh my gosh.
So, you do what you have to do. You got to get around. You got to be able to get to work. You got to be able to make some money. And sometimes you have to say to people, I have no job to bring my kid. And most people were like, I got you. I understand.
Yeah. That's amazing, though, that people rallied.
You worked. Oh, yeah. And, I think in most neighborhoods, in most towns, you'll find that if someone says, I need some help.
Yeah.
People will rally around and say, how can I help you? What do you need? What can I do? And and I never forgot that.
That's awesome. How do you think motherhood changed you, Whoopi?
I'm not sure that it did, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think, though, that it required me to recognize that there is more than just the I. There's the we. And I liked her so much. She was just really strange and wonderful. And, I really appreciated her and having her, because I think it kept me from making a lot of other mistakes, going down paths that weren't great, because it was always she and I. It's like it was like my mother, my brother, and me. It was Alex and me. Yeah. And so we just went everywhere together and did everything. And when I was lucky enough to, be able to earn some money, I could buy her 2 pair of shoes, as opposed to one every 2 years. Because, they grow.
They do. They grow fast.
Yeah, they grow fast.
They grow really, really fast. Whoopi, this has been awesome. I want to take some viewer questions if you're okay with that. Okay.
Absolutely.
And had a lot of them. I tried to minimize some of these.
Okay.
Diana wants to know, Whoopi's your stage name, right? How did that all come to be? That's a question from Diana.
Diana, this is a terrible story, but I have to tell you. I was a serial gas passer. And when you work in a in a lot of the theaters, if they don't have big backstages, you have to, and you're trying to change your clothes as you're moving around. You have to let it rip when it can. I'm lucky because oddly enough, I eat clean enough you don't know who dropped it because it's no odor.
Okay.
But people used to say, you were like a whoopee cushion. And so, and then it stuck. It stuck. So I was whoopee cushioned and I was whoopee couchon. Put that French emphasis on it. And then my mother said, you're a really good actor. I said, thank you, Mom. She said, but I don't think people are going to take you seriously as whoopee cushion. I said, really? Oh, great namer of the stars. What? And she said, well, here's any number of names that come out of the family vault.
Sure.
And I said, okay, well, I'm going to take this one. And daggone if she wasn't right. My mother was right, because I chose Whoopi Goldberg.
Love
it. That goes there. There are several Goldbergs in the family. And there are all kinds of people. We are Mutts, M-U-T-T-S. Okay. So it is not unusual for us to pick a name out of a hat and know that it's one of ours. So that's how that came about.
I can't envision anything else than Whoopi Goldberg. I mean, you just, you are Whoopi Goldberg. I thought that was a great question. Jeff wants to know, what was it like filming Ghost and working with Patrick Swayze? God rest his soul, by the way.
It was heaven working with Patrick Swayze. I loved him. He was great fun, really silly, really serious, but really silly, and really wanted to be a stand-up. And
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was good that he was the actor instead. He wasn't a good stand-up, but it was heaven. It was heaven. He was a really wonderful man.
He was really magic too. He was magic.
Yeah.
Wait. Richard says, I told you I needed to wear my glasses. Richard says, what do you enjoy more, acting or The View? And you have been the moderator at The View for almost
since time began.
Since 2007. Before ranch dressing was invented. Okay, so what do you enjoy more? I know that they're like a nice balance for you. What do you enjoy?
They're a good balance,
most?
but I love my acting because it's the thing that makes me happiest and seems to give me the most benefits for my soul.
That's good. Feed your soul. Yeah. That's great. And this is a similar question. Amanda says, what has been your process for reinventing yourself in different seasons? You've done so many different things, whether it was theater and Broadway to film and TV and, a TV host. Like you've done so many things. You've been an entrepreneur. Like you haven't ever been afraid to go for it. So what's your process for reinventing yourself?
Looking at my bank account.
Let's just be real.
Because people don't realize we're not, The View is not syndicated. So we don't get that syndication that people always think, oh, these guys are set for life. No, we are all working stiffs. We're all working stiffs. And I think to myself, oh, well, I got to take care of all this, but I better do something else so I can take care of this because I want this. So if there's something that I want that I'm like adamant, I will go find a job so I can get it. Yeah. But it's the motivation is making sure I pay as many of my bills as I can and I don't get put out of my house.
And you're also you have lots of people on the payroll and you're a very loyal and generous person. So there's that too. Okay, Lawrence wants to know, what have you found most rewarding and most difficult in your long career? Where do we begin, right?
Yeah. Most rewarding is that people still talk to me. And hardest is trying to understand things you don't see coming. Things that you think are ordinary and normal that you don't see coming and you step in it and you think, okay, I need to figure out how to fix this. Difficult, I think, for most people, more people these days, because you can't just say, I'm sorry now. People question it. They question your sincerity and an apology. And how do you prove that you really mean it? And with the onset of social media, it's almost pointless
Yeah.
So that's the hardest thing, is trying to navigate this new sheen on the world.
Yeah. That's really good. And I feel like people are also living in offense. They're just waiting to be offended about something.
Yeah.
And they don't have thick skin. I remember Joy would tell me, Behar on the show, she's like, Paula, you're impossible to offend. And I actually took a lot of pride in that, because I want to I don't want to live in offense. I want to be quick to forgive. And I just don't take things that personally. I don't take myself that seriously. I don't take any of it that seriously. And final question for you. Amy wants to know, Whoopi, what brings you genuine joy?
Actually, what brings me, there are several things that bring me genuine joy. One is doing this with people I care about, my friends, talking to my friends. The second is discovering sort of unique and interesting stuff that I can tell people about. Like, I discovered a show, I'm sure I didn't discover it, but I discovered it for me, on Netflix called One Piece, that I thought, what is this? And I don't watch television, so it grabbed me. And I watched all the episodes, and I was better for it. It made me feel better. I had a great time watching it. So that made me happy. And listening to my books, seeing my great-grandkid and my grandkids, and just being alive. I'm so grateful to be alive. A lot of people didn't make it to my age.
Right.
So I live for that. And those are the things that keep me laughing and thinking and smiling and not drinking, but drinking water.
Got it. You're living that clean life. You are living that clean life.
Clean-ish life.
Look, people have a lot of opinions about The View, but I will say, since I left, everyone there has been so supportive. And even since I left television news in general a couple of years ago, when ABC didn't re-sign me, even, like, you guys, the whole family, from the production staff, producers, to the on-air talent, you guys have been very supportive of me in this next season. One of the questions was about reinventing yourself, and I kind of have been trying to do that too. Every time I've said, hey, do you guys mind if I come talk about my new company, Carrie, or one of the books that I've got, or these projects that are important, every single time, you guys just cheer me on wildly. And I can't say how much that, I cannot express enough how much that means to me. It's hard to find. And I want people to know that that's, yes, things may get a little tense on set, right? But behind closed doors, it's a family. Families fight, right? Okay, things happen in families, but families have one another's backs, and you guys have had mine. So I just want to say thank you.
You deserve to be heard, Paula. You're writing kids' books. You're doing stuff to make the world better. You deserve to be heard. And so we will always make sure that you have a place at that table to tell us what you're doing and how we can celebrate what it is and help you do it the way you want to.
Stop making me cry, Whoopi. Stop.
Well, you're a really wonderful lady. You just are.
Thank you.
And I love your kids, and I love your husband, and I hope everybody's well.
They are. My daughter's driving. I know. We have elementary, middle, and high school. So, but I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for you, Whoopi. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Paula Faris.
Okay.
Love you.
You too. I think it's so important, you guys, that we have people in our life that challenge us. They don't necessarily have to agree with our ideology to be our friends. And yes, iron sharpens iron. We need people around us that encourage us to do life with, that do encourage us in our own personal beliefs and our moral compass. But I think it's also important to have people in our life that challenge us. And Whoopi has done that for me. She has challenged me to think outside of myself, outside of my echo chamber, outside of my purview. And I'm grateful for her loyal friendship and generous friendship in my life. So, hey guys, would you do me a huge favor? Because I am starting this show from scratch. Literally, wasn't able to take over any of the content or bring over any of the content or subscribers from my last podcast or the one before that, literally starting from the ground up. And I could use your help. If you wouldn't mind writing a review or rating this show, sharing it with a friend. That would be such a huge help and such a blessing to me as we talk about real issues and have these candid conversations. And one more thing, if you want giveaways, access to behind the scenes conversations and things that you're not going to hear or see on this show, make sure you've signed up for my personal newsletter at paulafarisofficial.com. Content to help you live your best life, encouragement, giveaways, all the whole 9 yards. So you guys, thank you so much for your support. I'll see you next week 4 of the show as we continue to talk about it. See you soon.
What a fun episode. Just Paula and Whoopi together. That was amazing. So much fun. Thanks for joining us today, friends. And don't forget to check out The Paula Faris Show by searching for the name in your podcast app and hitting follow to listen to more from Paula and her amazing guests.
And if you enjoyed today's episode or love this new podcast feed, would you mind sharing it with a friend? It's the best way to help support our show. Simply click on Share Episode on your podcast player and text a friend the link to listen. We'd be so grateful. We'll see you back here tomorrow.